we thought that many of you might be interested in an update and a kind of announcement, right? But maybe more of an update on the comprehensive early learning and development standards beginning at birth to ensure school readiness. So we're delighted to have Karen Yarbrough here from the Ounce of Prevention Fund, and Karen has been a leader in this very comprehensive and quite a long project set of work, and she's going to give us a short update on where things are and what you may look forward to.
Thanks. So just a quick few minutes here on infant toddler early learning guidelines. And as I've sat here today and listened to all the great discussions and presentations, one thing has this adage has come to my mind about thinking about beginning with the end in mind. And here at the end of the day, we're going to go back to the beginning, so we're going to do the reverse. But I think it's, as we think about alignment from birth through third grade, it's really a good thing to think about that concept. At every point in time in development, we want to think about what comes next. And as practitioners, professionals, policy people, think about how we continually support what is coming at the next phase. So just quickly to talk about the learning guidelines, as Gaylord mentioned, we've had a process that spanned the course of 2 years and has engaged a number of stakeholders throughout the state to develop these comprehensive early learning guidelines standards for infants and toddlers. I think, as folks know, all 50 states have early learning standards for preschoolers, and 43 states have them for infants and toddlers. So Illinois was kind of poised to jump right in and do this, and we're able to benefit from knowledge and learning from other states, how they did it, and to really kind of take the best out there and take it up a notch, take it to the next level. So what the goal of developing these standards were, beyond just creating kind of another document, another set of resources, it's really about building capacity across all systems, across all silos, for helping professionals, practitioners, and parents that are engaging with babies in the first 3 years of life, and building their capacity and knowledge around understanding how that development happens, what it looks like, and how to best support it. And really what happens in these first 3 years of life, as we've heard today, undergirds all learning that follows. This sets the stage for the learning trajectory for the life of the child. So what happens in these first 3 years is critically important. Again, to reinforce a couple of other messages, as early as 9 months, we see differences in how development is happening based on whether children are having interactive experiences in relationships with caregivers that are supporting their development, or whether they're not. So we can't lose this critical opportunity, this critical period of time. Through the process of creating development standards, one of the reasons Illinois, I think, took a little longer to get there is because of some honest concerns about how learning standards would be used in the first 3 years of life and what they would look like. There were very concerns about whether it would look like a checklist, what it would mean. Would it just be another thing that we were giving to practitioners who are already overwhelmed with reporting and paperwork and curriculum, and getting yet another thing piled on top of them? So it was very important throughout this process, as we engage stakeholders, to think about some guiding principles to create something that could be used in the best way and could complement and support everything else that was happening. So we really rooted this process in creating something that demonstrated the understanding of the interrelatedness of development in the first 3 years of life. When we talk about learning standards in terms of content or facts, it's a little bit easier to segregate them out. But when you're talking about the kind of foundational developmental social emotional skills, self-regulation, it's more difficult to do that. So to demonstrate how those things impacted one another was very important. And to talk about the centrality of the adult-child interaction and learning and development in the first 3 years. learning does not happen alone. It happens in the context of every person that this child is interacting with, whether it's teachers, caregivers, neighbors, grandparents, and that to scaffold that learning at all points with all of those kinds of individuals that are working with children was something we wanted to think about the best way to do. And then the third point here is acknowledging the really substantial impact of culture on development in the first 3 years and how development is approached in terms of expectations. There is just a tremendous variation in some of those expectations and how that looks. So we tried to create something that would help to describe standards and then also help us think about how that might look different in different variations. Really quickly, the document is, I think what people really want to know most is, when can I get my hands on it? That's the question I get all the time. So it's right between right now of having the last section printed and having the full document bound. So we really expect it to be done in the next couple weeks, and we'll be getting that out as well as getting out electronic versions, putting it on websites, and making that widely available. So do be on the lookout for that. And to talk quickly about what's in there, the core of it is these learning standards, but it's couched in the broader context of guidelines to help support the implementation. So it's divided in terms of domains, subdomains. There's introductory material to help orient people to what these domains are, what they look like. There is the standard, the age descriptors that demonstrate how it looks across the different periods of those first 3 years, and then specific indicators that help us see how these skills, knowledge, characteristics come to life, and how they indicate progress, which is really the important thing that we want to focus on again, is that trajectory. What is the line of sight? How do we continually support that more forward movement? We also have real-world stories, call-out boxes, strategies for caregivers as, again, just supplemental pieces to help these things come to life in terms of implementation and what they mean. The domains are broken down in terms of the kind of 4 standard academic developmental domains: social emotional, literacy, language, communication, physical health and development, or physical development and health, cognitive development. And then we also included a couple really important pieces, a section on self-regulation as a foundation for development. And this was something that was a very intentional decision by the group after looking across states and how they had handled this piece. Recognizing the importance of those non-cognitive skills, as we've again talked about multiple times today, executive function, the control, curiosity, self-competence. We pulled this particular piece out on self-regulation to highlight the importance and to really help people understand what it looks like and how to support that development in the first 3 years. So I think that's something that people are excited about to really kind of add to what we have here. And then approaches to learning, again, which is not a developmental domain, but to help think about the trajectory and progression of what those approaches look like and how to support that healthy learning and development. To address the wide range of variability, of normal variability in development in the first 3 years, we used overlapping age groupings that you can see here on the bottom slide. There's a newborn section to really talk about those first 3 months, but then the rest of the document is organized around these 4 overlapping age segments to really help us, again, show the trajectory of what things look like. And finally, I think looking to what comes next, thinking a little bit about the challenges in terms of implementation, is really making sure that this is a living document for providers and practitioners in the field across the range of programs that we have that touch the lives of infants and toddlers. There's no school for every infant and toddler, so those children are in a variety of places. They're in homes, they're with neighbors, they could be experiencing the early intervention system. So thinking about all the different systems that need to be on the same page around this and how we incorporate it into those. Some of the things that we tried to be intentional about in the document in terms of articulating interrelatedness, as we've talked here very much today about the alignment, and helping people understand that line of sight, that through line that's so important for the teacher to understand what the experience was like for that child before and how they can best support them to get to that next phase. That remains some of the important and difficult work to come. We, again, having benefited from many other states, have learned some lessons that we want to think about as we think about implementation, and some of them are happening in terms of very specific things like tying the ELGs to our quality rating system through the early learning challenge and Race to the Top. Thinking about implementation of training, again, across all kinds of different segments, including higher education and all the different child serving systems and where and how they are embedded across those systems. So with that, if you have additional thoughts or questions, please feel free to reach out to me, and look forward to sharing these and having more conversations.